and welcome to 3Q, where I interview industry professionals for just 15 minutes by asking three powerful questions. I'm your host, Rachel Vogel, and joining me for tonight's episode is Nicole Plantin. She's the former general manager of Emmy award-winning producer, director, and screenwriter Kenya Barris's joint venture with Interscope Records called Khalabo Records. And while she was there, she signed Go-Go Moro and helped place her music in Grownish and the Netflix film You People. Prior to that, she was the SVP of A&R Rostrum Records, which is formerly home to Wiz Khalifa and Mac Miller. And prior to that role, she served as the senior director at BMI, where she was responsible for signing artists like Janae Aiko, Schoolboy Q, and Nipsey Hussle. She was also part of the foundation building of the Neptune's label Star Trek Records. And currently, she spends her time guiding and consulting creatives and curating through her own company, Sir Agency LLC. Here we go. Imagine for a second you're sitting down with your 25-year-old self. What one piece of advice would you give her on a personal note? And what one piece of advice would you give her from a business perspective?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I love your podcast, love what you're doing. So very excited to be doing this with you. So what would I tell my younger self? On a personal note, I think I would tell myself to make sure that I'm continuing to expose myself to worlds beyond the industry that I'm in. Although it is very important to immerse yourself in the business that you're in, as we all know, relationships are very important in our business. So you spend a lot of time socializing within the business. I would remind myself that there's still a world out there, and it's important to be able to expose yourself to, just other things and to have other interests and to have other points of reference to bring into your work. I think that often in this business, you really tend to throw your all into it because it kind of ends up requiring your all. It's like there's no set hours and, oh, I have to do something in the evening and, oh, there's this festival on the weekend and I need to travel. And so it consumes a lot of your time, and that's fine. That's part of it. And it's the gift and a curse, right? Like you're working, but it's also fun. And we happen to be doing something that we really enjoy. So those things are great, but just make sure to maintain your own personal interests and to sort of continue to foster your own and nurture your own personal interests in your own world so that you have, like I said, other points of reference and everything doesn't become based on this one area of your life. So I would say that that's important. And I think that it's something that to some extent, I think I probably didn't really start to become aware of the importance of that until a little bit later in my life. And I think it's fine. It's not like there's no regret or anything, but I do realize that it's just, I think everyone should be mindful and think about that at whatever stage of your career you're in. That's what I would have to say on the personal note. And in terms of what advice I give myself on a professional side, timing is everything. And I think especially my background throughout the years has been working as an A&R, working with songwriters, producers. So what we do is we are meeting new artists. We are being exposed to ideas, new ideas, all of those things on a regular basis. And there's things that we can end up, being really excited and passionate about. And we're like, oh my God, if I love this, I need other people to see and hear this and love it as much as I do. And that's fine. And I think for a lot of folks, especially early on, and I know with me, I often, I would say close to the ground, very close to, okay, what's next? What's buzzing? What's the new thing? And that was kind of, in a way, the space that I was in. To me, I felt like, oh, well, if I'm excited about this, then I just need to, expose other people to this. And I'm going to give this artist a platform and and all those things. And you'll have to try to find a way and also think about how you're going to reconcile that artist with, sort of the times that we're in. Audiences, we're in a business. Mm-hmm. So it's not about just what you like. It's, do they have an audience? Are there fans? Are there people out there who are going to, love this? And ultimately, if we want to work in this business, we need to be able to sell. We need to be able to sell music, tickets, all of those things. So I just think that, timing is very important. And I think it's something that, again, I think sometimes you have to experience things a couple of times to see how it'll line up. So yeah, I think that's just something that would have been a nugget.
I think you bring up a good point too. It's like timing and patience. I think that's like the most beneficial thing that you're going to learn in this industry.
Patience is key because anything that's going to be done well, it takes time for it to get to that point. As they say, it takes time to make things look easy. The only reason something looks easy is because somebody put the work in and put years in to make it look that easy.
Let's switch it up. Every industry has its dirty little secrets, and
Yes.
we all know that it is no different in the music industry. Sometimes people think that's a bad thing, but that is not always the case. Sometimes they can be good. What's one secret you would like to share with our listeners about the industry?
This is such a hard one because you're like, do I need to come up with something that's going to be breaking news or something? But
Mhm.
but I would just say, I don't know if it's a dirty secret, but I do think it's something people don't necessarily consciously think about. And I think it's the fact that your reputation follows you. I think people need to be more conscious of that because your reputation ultimately ends up being, to some extent, your currency. You can be a really hard worker and you can be all these great things, but you might be up against other people. There's other people who might be really hard workers as well. But do people like working with you? What's been their experience working with you? And often when it's time for people to hire in this business, they want people to vouch. They want to vet people and they're going to want to speak to folks who can vouch for certain people. And you want someone to speak positively and highly of you. And so that's only going to come from you really just, it's the work, it's how you interact with people, it's how you manage your relationships, it's being respectful. As we know, the same person whose cubicle you might have been walking by could end up, in the corner office. I mean, you just never know. I think that that's something that I don't think people consciously think about, but I think it really plays a part in just some of the opportunities that you're going to be able to, that are going to come your way.
And it starts as early as the first opportunity that you get, whether that's an internship, your first assistant job, starts very early on. Mm-hmm.
That early. And I don't know, again, I just think if people thought about that, it would really make a difference in just how everything is continuously approached.
Closing it out. Throughout your career, I can only imagine you've been asked plenty of questions, whether it was
Yeah.
for an industry conference, the media, or even a promotion. But throughout all of those interviews and all of those questions, there has to be one that you've never been asked but would have liked to. So, what is that question, and what would be your answer?
I think this is a bit on the personal side of things. What keeps me going? Why do I continue to work in this very difficult industry, very challenging industry? This very, I would say, unstable in the sense of you never know what's going to work or not work. This very unpredictable industry. And I think for me, because I literally ask myself this often, I think it comes down to I care about people and I care about people feeling seen. And I think that that's just in general, anyone in my life, right? Like I feel like, okay, I actually want to not just hear, but like listen. So I think, it kind of translates to like artists. Like I think artists obviously they're expressing themselves through art. They have something to say, they have a perspective, they have a story. And I feel like, oh, I want other people to hear this. Like I get what they're trying to do here. That's just kind of my personal, as they call it, superpower, right? Is like I'm gonna kind of lean in a bit and we bring that into our work because we're like, okay, well, who are you? And that's where our starting point when it comes to working with artists, right? Is understanding who they are and understanding how to build around that. So yeah, I think that it's that constant curiosity of like just learning about people and their stories and like yeah, it's the curiosity. It's always going to be something new.
Well, Nicole, thanks again for joining me. And to everyone listening, I hope you enjoyed tonight's episode. Stay tuned for next week, where I interview industry professionals for just 15 minutes by asking 3 powerful questions. See you next time.
Thank you.